Hello. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about my hives in my apiary. An apiary is where you have beehives set up for beekeeping. I'm going to be talking about a couple of my hives, and we'll be right back, and I'll share with you guys. Hello, welcome back to Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. I'm your host, Jerry Hansen. I have been in beekeeping for, going on 8 years, and I've been learning as I go, attending beekeepers meetings and stuff. So, yeah, what book really helped me out a lot is Beekeeping from Dummies is one of the books, and there's a couple of other books out there to help me mainly get familiar with the basics of beekeeping. For instance, the names, what each part of a hive is called. So let's go over that real quick. Firstly, I built this foundation or this stand for my bees, and I built it specifically to a certain there was a reason behind my madness. Okay, the reason why I built it specifically this way is primarily to hold 4 hives. And the way it's spaced is so I can take a tray or a frame and lay it in here, and that will hold it instead of having the racks, purchase the extra racks. I'll show you later on in the video on the total use of this space. So let me go through. Besides the stand on which you put your hives, the first thing you're going to use is a foundation on which to set the hives up. This is what we call a screen bottom board. The screen bottom board in the summertime allows a lot of ventilation to get through and keep the hive at a certain temperature so they don't get overheated. And in the winter months, you can lay in a sheet of a piece of cardboard, which will insulate it a little bit, or you can use anything to insulate it and keep it draft free, but you do want some air circulation in there so you don't get condensation built up in your hive. Now the next item that goes on is a deep. Now they have deeps or brood chambers. We call these deeps because of the dimensions of them here. And they have 5 frame deeps, they have 8 frame deeps, and they have 10 frame deeps. Now these are 10 frame deeps. And then these are what's in the deeps is we have a frame and foundation. Now this is a wax coated foundation that's pre-stamped with a honeycomb, and the bees previous had already been in here making bee comb. This is wax comb that the bees have already drawn out on this. So we're gonna go ahead and place that back in here. And when you're starting off with a hive, this is all you're basically going to need is just 1 deep to get your hive to grow out. Now, as your hive grows, you're going to want to add another deep. And this is the second deep that I usually like to put on my hives. Now, I'm going to pull out this one frame here, and I'm going to show you. This is drawn out comb. This whole frame and foundation was completely drawn out in wax. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this part of the wax. We don't need that. But you can see up here where the bees have selected this to store honey. You can see how the honey is capped over and dried out, but there's no honey in any of these others, or no nectar and indigo, the other frames. Now you have the same thing on this side, which makes it a little bit heavier. You've got a lot of honey that's capped. So here's a frame I can use for future bees when I colonize this particular frame. In fact, I think I will use this frame in another video because I plan on fixing and multiplying my bees, the bees I do have. So let me find another frame here and see if I can find a supersedure cell, which is the bees have a tendency to make a queen cell if they get too populated, and I don't think this has a queen cell in it. It does have a mess in here though. Another tool I use is a frame lifter. It goes right down in there. Squeeze the frame and lift it right out. And there we have drawn out comb on both sides with a little bit of honey. There we go. I'm just going to go ahead and scrape this wax buildup here. Burr comb is what we call that. And no problem, the chickens will eat that. So I have no bees in this hive. Something happened to the bees where they just, they all died. This is called a colony collapse. So now I've got two 10-frame deeps or brood chambers on top of a screen bottom board. The next thing I'm going to add is a honey super, but honey super should only be added when your colonies are robust and full and active. And so the next item to when I go put a honey super on is I put what they call a queen excluder. If you look carefully at this queen excluder, you'll notice that the spaces are wide enough to allow a worker bee through, but it will not allow a fat bottom girl, the queen, in. She's excluded from this. That's why they call this a queen excluder. So the other deep we put on, or it's shallow, this is called the honey super. You notice it's shallower than the brood chambers or the other deeps, is because the frames in the honey super, they get really heavy. So if you're changing out the honey super altogether, that honey super is going to be really heavy if it was a full brood chamber. If you want to use brood chambers for honey, go ahead, be my guest. But I use the shallower honey supers, and it comes with 10 frames also. The next item I want to do is, let's clear off the burr comb off of this. Now this is the next item involved. This is called a inner cover. This covers, and you notice there's a little hole right here. Well, that allows for ventilation. It also allows for access for the bees to get in and out of there. So this just goes right down over the top of the honey super, or if you don't have the honey super, it goes right down over the top of your regular hives, whether it be a single box, double box. But this is your inner cover, because the final piece that goes on, well, not the final piece, the other piece that goes on is what we call a telescoping cover. This is the telescoping cover. It's weatherproof on the outside. It slips down right over the top of it and telescopes outside of the dimensions of the hive. So when the rain and snow comes down, it drips off away from the hive and not onto the hive. That's why they call it a telescoping cover. And here is another item. It's just a little piece, a little stick of wood. It has a big groove cut in here. It has a small groove cut in here. And this is called an entrance reducer. You have two choices of an entrance reducer. You can have a small, it just fits. And this is cut to where it fits perfectly in there. It allows a small opening so the bees can easily defend the hive from robbers. Yes, there are honey robbers. Or you can put it this way with a wider gap to allow more bees through, so they could have ready access. I'm going to go ahead and use my essential oil that I used on my front hives to bait them. I'm going to go ahead and bait this hive and see if I can get a colony of bees in here. But ultimately, I'm going to reduce this hive down to one box like this. Now, this is an example I'm going to show you here on why I built my stand the way I built it. This space is wide enough to store a deep or another box. So now this is ready to just get introduce bees to a brand new colony. This is the basics. You don't want a whole lot of room for the honeybees because you want them to be able to colonize this area, stay warm, dry out the comb, for the queen to work the lower frames, and then you put your inner cover on, and then you place your telescoping cover. So this is basic, a basic box for colonizing bees to start with. A simple one box with a screen bottom board, inner cover, and telescoping cover with 10 frames so the bees have room to colonize. Now this is the basic. Let's recap real quick. We have the stand on which your beehives stand on. Some people just use 2 cinder blocks, cement cinder blocks as a stand to get it so high up off the ground. Now let me add, the reason why my stand is so high is because it's out of the way of skunks. That makes it difficult for mice to get into the hive. Yeah, skunks and mice will are not good for a hive because the skunk will come up at night and scratch at your doorpost here and eat all the bees as they come out. Not good. So skunks are beneficial, but not for a beehive, a honey beehive. Nope. Anyway, so recap. We got the hive stand so far off the ground to keep skunks away, keep mice out. We've got the screen bottom board, a foundation on which the hive sits. We've got a 10 frame brood chamber or deep. We've got an inner cover and an outer telescoping cover. And that's a basic beehive to start your colony with. Then you can add another deep and then add a queen excluder and add your honey super with 10 frames of a smaller frame and foundation for the bees to make wax in and also make honey. Yeah, the sweet rewards of beekeeping. So that's my presentation on beekeeping basics, the basic bare minimum of beekeeping, introductory to setting up a hive, one hive. So that's your basics. I'm your host, Jerry Hansen. This is Pine Meadows Hobby Farm in the apiary. Please stay tuned to more videos. You could do that by subscribing, clicking that bell icon. That alerts you to new videos as I upload them. Give us a thumbs up, click that share button. Sharing my videos on your social media platforms really helps out the channel. Be safe, always be kind. We'll see you guys in the next adventure. Bye-bye now.